I wanted to have you on the show because your introductory statement was pretty bold and different from what I normally hear from guests. You said in your intro, quote, the only way to truly disrupt the ransomware problem is to target the actors themselves, dismantle their organizations, degrade their capabilities, and shatter their sense of invulnerability. They need to know that they are touchable and will face consequences for their actions. So tell me more about this. This sounds very much like we've moved from playing defense to going on the offense and taking the fight to the cyber criminals. And I feel like even a couple of years ago, I was not hearing many people say, "Oh yes, let's hack back." So, can you explain what's changed and what this means in terms of the way the industry operates right now?
Okay, so first of all, I definitely don't want to use the term hack back.
Okay,
that is a very charged term, and it means different things to different people.
Gotcha.
And I'm certainly not.
I think that's why I was so surprised. Okay,
great. I'm certainly not advocating like hack back and what most people consider hack back. But what I would say is that most of the cyber criminals that are out there today that are causing the biggest problems and the most damage are operating from countries where the national government is sheltering them, either by actively working with them or by just ignoring what they're doing because they're happy about the havoc that it's causing, in the West, right? And so that's where we need to really turn the tables on these actors who are operating from sanctuary, essentially, where there is no way for them to feel consequences for what they're doing, and they can just continue to operate and operate and operate. So what really needs to happen here, and this has already started, is that we need to treat this like a national security problem. I was actually a member of the IST ransomware task force. We got together with a bunch of groups from industry, from government, and we walked through how we could build a framework to actually turn the tables on these actors. We came out with a report in the spring of this year, which was actually passed on to the Biden administration. And they have already adopted many of the recommendations that we put together in that framework. And that included really treating it like a national security problem. And once an issue gets that designation, it's a formal designation that the government can do, that then brings many, many resources to bear against the problem. So all of the groups that were already working ransomware hard, like FBI and CISA and other State Department, other parts of the government that were already trying to work the issue, they get more resources to help enable them to do more, not operating with their hands cuffed quite as much. Right. But then it also brings other resources to bear because it's no longer just a criminal matter. It's a national security matter. So you can imagine, the intelligence agencies, military intelligence, and other capabilities are getting spun up to be able to look at these bad actors and go after them with techniques that would normally not be used against criminal actors. So that's where you start to turn this into a carefully driven, active campaign where the government and the private industry are working together to not just protect victims, but also identify the cyber criminals where they are, put that information all together, feed that information to the governments of the world. And then that would do a couple of interesting effects. So number one, when let's say the FBI reaches out to their counterparts in Russia and they say, hey, we have information that these cyber criminals are operating from your soil. And if they produce, an incredibly detailed docket of information about these people, it's much harder to deny, right? Yeah. And so you can really see whether or not that country is being a good partner or whether they're not being a good partner. And it becomes very evident very, very quickly. If that becomes evident, that would allow the governments of the world to start adding political pressure and financial pressure and other types of vehicles to put pressure on these governments to comply if they're not willing to do it just as being good citizens of the world. So you're adding this knowledge to this train that will then drive either compliance or prove that they're not going to be willing to comply no matter how accurate the information is, right? And that's when you start to drive other types of operations out there in the world that can start disrupting these actors, even if the local government is not going to be helpful. Okay. And I'm sure you can imagine there are lots of things that our intelligence agencies can do that will make life really, really hard for these folks, so that they will not be able to conduct as many ransomware operations per year because they're going to be busy trying to, find a rock to hide under so that they don't end up having problems.
I'm excited to announce that our Infosec Skills platform will be releasing a new challenge every month with 3 hands-on labs to put your cyber skills to the test. Each month, you'll build new skills ranging from secure coding to penetration testing to advanced persistent threats and everything in between. Plus, we're giving away more than $1,000 worth of prizes each month. Go to infosecinstitute.com/challenge and start your challenge right now.